أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum, welcome all. This is the third week, inshallah, on the same topic, which is about worship, the ubudiyyah, servanthood to Allah. This week, inshallah, we have Brother Harun Preem from Mississippi and Mustafa Akbulut from Boston, Massachusetts. And inshallah, I will try to assist them. We started with the 21st and 22nd verses of Surah Al-Baqarah, and we were reading through Isharat al-Ijaz, the related tafsir part. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الناس اعبدوا ربكم الذي خلقكم والذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون الذي جعل لكم الأرض فراشا والسماء بناء فأنزل من السماء ماء فأخرج به من الثمرات رزقا لكم فلا تجعلوا لله أندادا وأنتم تعلمون. O you people, worship your Lord and Sustainer who has created you and those who lived before you, so that you might remain conscious of Him, who has made the earth a resting place for you and the sky a canopy, and has sent down water from the sky and thereby brought forth fruits for your sustenance. Then set not up rivals to Allah when you know the truth. Inshallah, I will try to start reading the first part of the text. There are some parts also we took from the 23rd flash, which is related to the nature, unless Brother Harun or Mustafa has anything to remind us from last week, previous week's readings.
I'm fine.
Bismillah.
I'm fine too. We can move, I think.
Yeah, Michelle.
The purpose of worship is to turn minds towards the all-wise Maker, and this turning towards induces obedience and submission. And this includes the worshippers under the perfect order in the universe and binds them to it. To follow this order leads to the realization of the mystery of wisdom. And the wisdom is testified to by the perfect art in the universe. So there are many keywords here which might, raise question mark in our minds. Like he talked about realization of the mystery of wisdom, and he talked about the testifies, so a witness. If we want to stop and talk about this, we can, or I guess the following slides are also kind of opening up. I can continue. Unless
maybe we can start little bit discussing or reflecting upon this slide. The text, of course, you're referring like this passage from the Tafsir Isharat al-Ijaz and the treatise 23rd flashes. These are very important texts, and I think I hope all of us can concentrate and read and understand to the depthness. I myself confess that I maybe read them several times, but still I get really inspired of them in relation to understanding Quran verses, especially this Baqarah 21st and 22nd verses. So I'm amazed with this initial sentence, the purpose of worship. Maybe this is the ultimate question even our children ask us, or a lay person in religion asks us, why do you worship? Why do we worship really? I think worshipping is something which looks like some practice of rituals. But practicing of rituals, it looks so boring and so odd, except for it looks like exercise. I remember one non-believer calling a praying Muslim as doing some Islamic aerobic to this extent. So what is this all brings the question, what is the purpose of worship? I think this sentence is a brilliant answer. The purpose of worship is turning minds towards the all-wise maker. So all-wise maker is Allah's attributes, right? Hakim here, the name. So it's by worshiping, by means of worshiping, our minds just bend, let's say, bend towards Allah, the Hakim, the creator, the maker. So this is very, maybe I also want you and Mustafa to just chime in.
Sure.
At this point, you know, how do we need this turning minds towards all-wise maker during the day, during the month, during the year? And when we think of worships, right, in Islam, we have daily worships, we have maybe monthly, and we have yearly, and we have once in our whole life, like Hajj. We have different cycles of worships. Let me ask you, how does this help us to turn our minds towards all-wise maker?
I mean, my idea there would be, right, I mean, we should probably look into the meaning of Al-Hakim, right, or the being all-wise. And I think one explanation could be everything is the purpose, right? Nothing is in vain. Everything is in a purpose and everything is in an order. And in that sense, knowing our purpose here and being part of that order, they seem to be connected. So in that sense, and in this whole chain of logic here, right? Like turning minds towards All-Wise Maker, the obedience that comes with it, and going under the perfect order of the universe, and then seeing the wisdom behind their actions. They seem to be all connected, and right, because this whole chain gets again connected to the wisdom, right? At the end of the sentence, it again comes back to wisdom and realizing that wisdom with the whole universe and seeing that wisdom and seeing that purpose. So in that sense, I think doing things in harmony with the universe appears to almost or helps us realize that wisdom in some sense. So there's one thing that I can think about, the purpose and order. I guess those two words could be connected. I don't know. Did you have something more about that, Harnabi? Looks like you have.
It's inside the meaning of worshiping, right? So it's amazing. For example, you know, from the hadith, we know that, for example, looking at the face of our parents, it's an act of worship. Why? Because you feel the merciful, you feel the merciness by their face, or looking at the face of Kaaba. These are act of worships, or any daily action which will make us feel important and weak in front of Allah, all-wise maker. These are all act of worships. And I remember from last or recent discussions from last week's, you know, we said that all our acts should be worshipful. That's the point. But of course, in a way, Allah makes it guarantee that when we do whatever he inscribes on us, like daily prayers, like fasting in a year, like Hajj in our whole life, it's kind of gives a warranty for us to switch our minds to our weakness and impotence, which is very inherent. This is the condition of human being. So because during the day we just turn away, right? We just feel strong, we feel that we know everything, we just have relationships with people, we hurt people, we we ignore people. I think that's the right point. Even we ignore nature, our surroundings. We just turn away our faces from a nice flower which is shining, which is smiling at us. So these are all ignorance, denial to some extent. So this daily prayers, which is part of the worship, right? Worship is more general, just turns our minds to the meaning of the creation. And turning minds to the meaning of creation actually ultimately turns our minds towards Allah, all-wise maker. And that's absolutely what the worship is, because then we have a state of feeling contentful and we just lie in harmony with the nature, because we already know unconscious beings such as stones, flowers, animals, to some extent, they all just worship Allah, which are non-conscious or less conscious compared to us. So by this way, we just get in this beautiful harmony and we have a sense of what they are doing really.
Yeah. And I think the part in the 23rd flash also opens this up, right? Because when I read that part, along with this, almost on the other side, right? I mean, it comes to the same logic from the other side. What if you don't worship? Then you don't see the perfect order. Then you don't realize their purpose. Then,
Right.
you don't fulfill your purpose either. So in that sense, indeed, I mean, it looks like the worship now is the key to pretty much, connect to the rest of the universe, because everything else is doing their worship. And if you do not do your own part in that overall picture, it looks like you are missing out. You are, being the outlier in that harmonious universe, which actually worships their Lord day and night. So in that sense, really, it's a key. It's almost a mystery, but it is something that binds the human being to the rest of the universe and their worship indeed. Yes.
This just reminded me a letter which was very interesting to me. Somebody was asking Ustad about his particular worship state. He was saying he is not feeling anymore the old style of phase, the lights, he was getting out of a particular dhikr, a particular remembrance. So he was effulgence, yeah. So he was thinking that maybe he's not in that particular worshipful state, right? So leave aside the being conscious of everything we are doing as a worship, but even in doing particular worships, we are supposed to do like our prayers, the other practices of the Islam. It's very interesting. It might be sometimes hard to do it, or so if I'm not in a state of ecstasy and really enjoying that worshipful state, so is it really with ikhlas, or what's going on here? So it was a very interesting question to me. So it reminded me this point, I guess, it's kind of breaking our life cycle, right? So I'm doing whatever I am thinking it's important. I'm doing my own stuff. This is my life. I arrange my life. I have my goals. I have my schedule, right? I have my duties, and within this cycle, all of a sudden, consciously or unconsciously, sometimes it is habitual, sometimes I'm not really into it, but it reminds me that I'm not owning myself. It's not just about me and myself. I have an owner. There is a short part in the Ramadan Risale, what Harun Abi said reminded me that, let me read it really quick. may understand that it does not own itself, the self, the ana, the ego, but is totally owned, that it is not free, but is a slave. It understands that if it receives no command, it may not do the simplest and easiest thing. It cannot even stretch out its hand for water. Its imaginary rububiyya, dominicality, lordship, is therefore shattered. It performs its worship and begins to offer thanks, its true duty. So what I understand from your explanations is, sometimes habitual, sometimes not really that with that high consciousness, but at least it's kind of wake up call. Where are you going? What are you doing? Be aware of what are you doing. Really, who are you?
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it is. I guess the connection to ego or ana is really key, right? And in the next part too, in the 23rd flash part, I think it'll be even more clearer with the example of a mirror, right? Someone holds a mirror, and pretty much person's perspective shapes how they perceive things. And worship kind of puts you in that place of obedience and submission, right? In the words that is mentioned here. So once you are in that state of obedience and submission, you are pretty much, I guess, transforming your perspective from one that is all um, egoistic, that is all self-centered, and then you turn it into something that is actually like we are all brothers and sisters with the rest of the creation, right? You feel that feeling of you are equal in the sense of being created. So that sense, I think, is only truly gained through an act of worship like this.
Arnabi, you raised the question, so you wanna wrap up, or we can just go next
as you
slide.
all beautifully mentioned, so there's a subtle relationship, right, between our doing our worships commanded by all-wise maker Allah, and then being in harmony with all our surroundings. So there's a subtle relationship. When you look at from the face value, it looks very odd maybe, or boring, like you're doing some ritual activities, let's say, but there's a subtle connection to understand what's going on in our relation to environment and creation. So that beautifully starts the purpose of worship, is turning our minds towards the all-wise maker in this slide.
All right, thank you. Inshallah, I'm turning into the second slide. The person who gives up worship and ritual prayer is violating in a significant manner the rights of beings who are like the subjects of the monarch of eternity and posterity, Azal and Abad, and is in fact acting unjustly towards them. For the perfections of beings are manifested through the glorification and worship performed by that aspect of them which is directed towards their maker. The one who abandons worship does not and cannot see this worship. Indeed, he denies it. Maybe we can stop here and
yeah, I think
say
so.
A couple of words about how how is this worship? What's going on here in the universe? What kind of worship we are talking about?
Shall I just chime in?
Yeah, go
sure.
ahead.
This passage just brings into my mind, there's a famous saying, I guess from a self-help author I had read at the time. So the quote is, "Mind serves perception." It's a very nice quote, mind serves perception, and I think it is very relevant here. So however you perceive, your mind will act accordingly. So if your perception is, let's say, all created beings are self-surviving, for instance, then your mind will work in a way to find evidences or to find meaning in a way that every created being is acting selfish and self-sustaining. Although I know even in my wording it makes contradiction. I'm saying created beings. So, but the point is, definitely our perception will help our body and our minds to let's say view meaning accordingly. So here worshipping gives us the perception. If we worship, we perceive that everything is worshipping. Because what is the, again, point of worship? It reminds us the creator, right, from the first slide. So once we are reminded of the creator, the maker, all-wise maker, Allah the Hakim, then of course I need to attach meanings similarly, or attach purpose to all entities in this world and even in this universe, let's say. So any star which is billions or millions light years away from us has a connection with me, because we are part of the same universe and the creator is the same. So my mind starts weaving meanings in this way. And when I look at a tree, a fruitful tree, I get so much fascinated, because I say that my creator is that tree's creator and we have a connection. So everything is very well designed and very well thought about. So I attach meanings and value accordingly. So since this is the case, with worship bringing my perception to this state, then I see the real value of all created beings. A flower isn't flower anymore. A flower is kind of a gift from the all-wise maker to me and to all humanity and to anyone being created. And this gift is all valuable in the sense that it is attracting my eyes, my nose, all my external faculties, as well as inner faculties, right? Because I'm fascinated by the color, by the confession expressed by the flower, design, my mind, my intellect, because we do mathematics, geometry out of this flower. So there's a true value in it. But what happens otherwise? So if I don't worship, if I'm not in a state of worship, then everything, diminishes. All the value just goes away. It's just a flower. It's just grams of sand, because, the components of sand and flour are the same. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. So all the particles making flour and the sand are the same. So their material value are exactly the same. So there is no difference. So meanings goes away. And what happens when I just take the meaning out, then it's kind of, I am violating the rights of beings. A flower is a sign of the creator. So I'm violating this right of this flower. So that's criminal in a way. So these are my initial thoughts on this.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, adding to that, like how now beautiful said, it is through the lenses of worship that we can see the true nature of the universe, which is, perfectly created artwork by our creator. And I guess the author will also open some of these things up, but I guess two things about the universe pretty much come into play here. One is that they are constantly in an act of worship, right? They're working. You see, you know, today there was a squirrel that was climbing a tree, and I said, like, there's no stopping, right? They go to sleep, they wake up, they go after food, and you know, there's all this constant action, right? They're there. They are never there. You know, those creatures that we see around us, what they do very passionately, they do very diligently, and they do their work. They do some work, but if we don't realize that they are officials by the creator of the universe, then we miss the point that they are actually doing acts of worship while doing their duties. So if we don't realize that by cutting our own relationship with our Lord, cutting our own relationship with worship, that means that we are missing the point of that worship. We are missing the point that all those creatures, all that hardworking, we just say, because it is either, as Harnav beautifully put, in self-interest, it is either to feed themselves and perpetuate their species, or they are actually doing some work in the name of the creator of the universe, right? The latter is so much higher of a meaning, so much higher in terms of the position, and rank. And so that is one thing, right? Like we missed the point about all their worship and what they do. We assume that it is for nothing. The second aspect, I guess, is again connected to that, to the nature of the beings, like how Nabi said, right? I mean, it is either just a different form of sand for the flower, or a beautiful created artwork of the creator of the universe. Again, that puts them at a high position um, in their being. Again, by realizing those. So both for their actions and for their beings, qualities, we can see them as actually the created beings by the same creator who created me, which again puts them as a position, not that I can I can, you know, make submissive to myself, or that can give orders to, because I can, you know, the human being has this ability to direct certain things in the universe. God has given us that ability to some level. But if we don't realize them as the officials that are working on behalf of God, Allah, we miss the point about them being those officials, and we it can go down to the road of tyranny and all these problems and troubles that we see in the world. Some of them is through that. Like we assume that, when we assume, again, it's like a bit about perspective, right? And if we see it as, you know, it's big fish eats the small fish, right? If we see it as, you know, survival of the fittest type of a thing, then we also believe that, and we also don't truly see the rest of the universe as our equals in terms of their being created, and respect them. But we again take care of them because we also from a selfish point of view, like even for this all these uh, all these talks about like global warming and things like that, right? I mean, it's mildly political, but I think it is a good thing to discuss, because even then sometimes, you know, when we discuss, okay, we should stop global warming, it's not because we respect those sometimes, you know, the arguments are like, it's not like we respect those animals who will go extinct. It is because, you know, the sea level will increase and our life will be harder and stuff like that. But like a worshipful state, a worshipper would see it like, okay, these are our brethren, these are um, created the creatures by the creator of the universe, and we should respect them, we should respect their worship, and we should keep their worship as untouched as possible. And with that, there is a true like a feeling of that's a more true feeling towards those creation and giving them their all the ranks that they deserve to get by being the officials of the creator of the universe, and worship pretty much establishes that connection.
I have a question. So, as far as I understand from your explanations, now just like our own actions, besides our traditional worship practices, all our actions and states during the daily life could be a worship, and just like that, all the actions and states of other creation, conscious or unconscious or half consciously, is kind of a worship, a servitude to the creator, right? And so what is the place of human being then here? We look at the universe, it's perfectly working, everything is doing its own duty, worship in a way. So why the statement of the human being is that important? We occupy such a small part of this universe. So what is special about the human being?
Arnav, do you want to tackle that?
I think that's an excellent and that's a deep and huge question. Even we can devote the remaining time to try to address this question, which I fall myself short of answering it clearly. But I believe all our answers are just approaching, right? We are just we're on the same voyage, or we are on the same road to go to the. We don't have ultimates. This is what I'm saying, but we are trying to understand together. So there will never be a complete or absolute answer. That's the maybe that's the goodness of being created. From Baykar Abi's question, I first understand that really we are special beings as humans. So why is that so? As he mentioned, as Baykar Abi mentions, all other created beings just obey Allah without questioning in a way. I think even this has relationship with the purpose of humans, we being created. Why did the creator create us? That's the question. One of the ultimate questions. Obviously, we are the most capable to understand the creator in the first place, and the way we understand is through what is created. In a way, all this universe is a book. We can read this book, and we can understand the writer of this book, who is the all-wise creator, right? So then we need instructions to read this book, because if there's a book as valuable as this universe, then there should be a teacher or lecturer, a nice knower, a perfect knower of this book. This is the prophecy comes in. So by means of prophecy, we learn how to read this book. And what I'm telling here is, I would say, perfectly explained in 11th word. 11th word from Said Nursi is an amazing text to post this relationship. So yes, having said this, once we have this prophecy to read this excellent universe book, then we can really position ourselves. Otherwise, as Baykar Abi says, everything obeys, but we are to obey or not. But Allah is the all-wise. He doesn't let's say, the big picture being futile. It cannot be futile. It should be purposeful in any sense. So that means at least some people will make sense of this universe book. And this, even if a small amount of people, let's say, doesn't matter, because the quality matters even in creation, right? if there is a perfect diamond or perfect valued substance, then remaining substances, if they are not, even if they are worthless, futile, doesn't matter, because one diamond or one most valuable substance is worth of just the purpose of the creator, let's say. Maybe I made things too complicated, but bottom line, I would say human beings are not out of this story. We are definitely part of the story of creation, and the story of creation is purposeful. And the writer of this story, will not let, in the end, this story to be unpurposeful. That means at least there will be some human beings who really understand the point of this story. That's my conclusion.
Yeah, one thing to add there, I guess, is the one key concept that we can probably put out here is the universal worship, right? The human beings, the ability for human beings is unique in the sense that we can present a universal level of worship where we can understand all these creation, all their purpose. And with science, we can understand how beautiful they are, how artful they are, how full of wisdom they are. And then, based on that, understand that fully or to a level that the best we can understand. And using that, collecting all that information and seeing all the worship that is presented by all the creatures, then we can present our worship in a more perfect manner, in a more universal manner that can encompass all the worship that is being done from stars to the atoms, from trees to the sea. We can understand, we can comprehend, and we can present that worship in a more universal level. And no other creature is positioned in the universe to do that, right? I mean, each creation, again, honeybee does a perfect job, but it only knows how to make honey, and it is its worship, and it might not
It's
even
not aware of what
realize.
it's doing, right? It's not aware of what is
And it's
what
not
is
aware of it is doing a perfect job. We are aware of doing a perfect job. An angel that is watching that honeybee might see that it is doing a perfect job, but it probably doesn't know the taste of honey or appreciate the it being a sustenance like human beings do or can do. So human beings, even above angels, we can understand more of the manifestations of divine names on each of these parts of the universe, each of these functions that the creatures or the creation is fulfilling. And then based on that, we are able to collect all of them and then present our worship in a more universal and a general and a more representative manner. Because at the end of the day, God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He doesn't need our worship, right? It is our intention, it is our understanding of His divine names, and we need to understand that and present that worship. And in that sense, there's that example, right? Given someplace in Risale, about, right? One man goes into the presence of a king and sees all these other gifts that are being given, and then he says, if I had the power, if I had the means, I would have brought all these gifts on behalf of myself and presented to you. So in the same way, human being sees all these gifts, all these worships, all these functions are being carried out by the universe, and we can observe them, we can internalize them, and we can present that as if we are doing that, because everything is glorifying Allah, and we should understand that and be part of that. And we can, by comprehending all of them, we can be in a position doing that in a more universal manner, and that, and we can present it in a more universal way. And of course, as Nabi pointed out, on our own, we are not really able to fulfill that, and who teaches us that are prophets, and they come into the picture and they actually tell us what the creator, how we should fulfill that purpose, and they direct us to the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's yeah, that is my take on like how human beings worship might be different than the rest of the creation.
And I find this question really important because usually we human beings feel like we are out of the picture. We are not out of the picture. Definitely, we are part of this picture, and definitely the way we read this creation will affect how we see this creation, and how we see this creation will affect understanding all the purpose behind creation.
Thank you so much. This is a very important discussion. I believe it's also very a popular topic because we are all talking about environmentalism, humanitarianism, the respecting each other and the creation and the nature. But here's this particular word, violation. He's talking about violating. It's really interesting that he's not talking about polluting or destroying the nature. Of course, these are part of it, but without just getting there, leave aside fixing the things that we already destroyed. Just sitting here, we are not doing something, and we are violating their rights. We are not aware of something that we are missing. So in that sense, it's very interesting. It's not just about this physical relation, as you said, but they have a rank, right? They have a duty, they have a place, and human being has the capacity to understand it. From what you said, that's my takeaway. So I guess this is also has to do with human being being the caliph, right? Khalifa on the earth, the representative of God. So we usually take it in political terms, the caliph, but I guess in theological terms, it's also very important. And in different religions, I heard like terms like stewardship, and some, that human being is kind of really an observer or supervisor about all with certain qualities. So he needs to be aware of those things. They come with the whole package with a lot of responsibility, I believe, then.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
Yeah, and with respect to the rights of beings, I want to mention about a verse in Surah Al-Hud. In Surah Al-Hud, verse number that I pulled, 87, the people of Shu'aib alayhi salam, the people of Shu'aib, just question Shu'aib. They ask, Shu'aib, are your prayers making you behave like this? The translation of this verse. It's amazing, They see that Shu'aib is acting differently. It's caught by their eyes. They are questioning, Shu'aib, are your prayers, are your worships making you behave differently? What is he behaving differently in the verse? One thing is that is mentioned is Shu'aib is discussing the way the people are distributing, or the people making use of their goods, their belongings. Looks like they are using their belongings in a way however they wish. How we can understand they are using water however they want to. They are distributing products however they want to. Most likely they are doing it unjustly. So at this point, Shu'aib alayhi salam is saying that you are doing this unrightly, unjustly. Immediately they are questioning this, and they are saying that, are your prayers making you behave like this? I think it's just an application of what we are talking about. It's mentioned in, once again, Surah Al-Hud, verse number 87.
Yes, yeah, great, yeah. I think, right, I mean, it puts us to the rightful place of where we are. I mean, worship makes us realize that where we are and where we belong in the universe. And I guess it's, well, more than anything, it's a humbling experience against the rest of the universe, right? Because
Right.
as you understand their worship, as you understand their place being so valuable, and only through that you can, you can place yourself, and then you can give and ascribe all the value that they deserve, and then without that it'll be just it wouldn't be sincere, it sounds like, right? I mean, because if you don't appreciate their position as being officials by the creator of the universe, then it is you are almost insulting them. You are telling them that they are just random chance beings. They're just came into existence out of random happenings in the universe, and they don't have any purpose besides keeping things going. But no, I mean, they are valuable things, and they're valuable officials of the universe and everything, right? I mean, as you said, Harnabi, but that yeah, right? I mean, it applies to the justice when doing trade, right? I mean, and things like that. So it does, worship is that humbling experience for the human being, indeed.
Let me go through the text, inshallah. We'll
Sure.
talk a little bit more maybe on this particular point. The person who gives up worship and ritual prayer is violating in a significant manner the rights of beings who are like the subjects of the monarch of eternity and posterity, and is in fact acting unjustly towards them. For the perfections of beings are manifested through the glorification and worship performed by that aspect of them which is directed towards their Maker. The one who abandons worship does not and cannot see this worship. Indeed, he denies it. Furthermore, beings occupy an exalted position by reason of their worship and glorification, and each is a missive of the eternal episode one, Ahad Samad, and a mirror to its sustainers' names, since he reduces them from their high positions and considers them to be unimportant, lifeless, aimless, and without duties. He is insulting them and denying and transgressing their perfections. Indeed, everyone sees the world in his own mirror. God Almighty created human beings as a measure and scale for the universe. And from the world, he gave a particular world to each person. This world he colors for them in accordance with their sincere beliefs. For example, a despairing, lamenting, weeping person sees beings as weeping and in despair, while a cheerful, optimistic, merry person sees the universe as joyful and smiling. A reflective human given to solemn worship and glorification discovers and sees to a degree that certain truly existent worship and glorification of beings, while a person who abandons worship through either neglect or denial sees beings in a manner totally contrary and opposed to the reality of their perfections, and so transgress their rights.
Yeah, we see here actually abandoning worship is through neglect or denial. Maybe denial is very strong, right? It belongs to mostly maybe non-believers, but for believers' part, most of the time it's by neglecting. As we say, we just pass by a beautiful flower, we pass by a human being in need. So all these pass-bys are neglecting, right? So, and neglection itself actually abandoning the worshipful state that any human being should be in order to be just, let's say, conducting it's being human.
And like there's of course a slippery slope, right? I mean, of course, neglecting is not same as denial, but as you keep neglecting, I guess, and you don't see this worship being done, and then because you, for example, if you are in a mosque, you would be surrounded by worshippers, and you wouldn't be able to commit a sin in front of before their eyes as you would somewhere else, right? So as you worship, you see everything else around you being worshippers. The universe is your mosque. The universe becomes your place of worship. And once that happens, you actually are surrounded by all these worshippers. You wouldn't wouldn't feel comfortable going against orders of the creator, orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, but if you neglect that, then you don't see the trees or the animals or the stars being in a worshipful state. You don't see them as worshippers. You don't see their nature in the way that they are supposed to be seen. When that happens, of course, it can get to a slippery slope where as you forget about that fact, you are being more careless and you can slip into denying them as well. So indeed, neglecting is not the same as denial, but it could, lead to that if it is left unchecked, I guess.
True. Neglecting could take to denial. So it's kind of a dangerous, or let's say, it's kind of a bad process.
I guess it's related, right? He talk about our own world. So as you said, yes, physically we have a very small, place in this universe, and maybe we can consider as insignificant, and we cannot harm anybody else. All those beings are constantly remembering God, doing their worship, servitude to God. So why I'm just neglecting my own prayers? Why it is so important? I'm just, it's kind of like a practice, a training. That's it. Why it's so important in the presence of the Creator. So this should be the answer then. There's two aspects of it. One is you already talk about it extensively, that how we are violating the rights of all the other creations. So the Creator kind of protecting their rights in the as the owner, because we are just neglecting all their high rank, although we are the maybe only supervisor who will present it to the Creator at the end of the day, all their end product of their work. We should report it to the Creator, but we abandon that duty. And the next is kind of we are putting a border. We are coming with a shirk that is the only sin that is unforgivable. We're kind of, yes, the whole universe is running under the order of God, but these certain things that I'm considering in my own perception, they're kind of running by themselves. Since I don't worship, I little, step by step, I am losing my ability to see that beautiful face of the creation, and it's not the reality. It's in my own understanding, but I'm kind of putting a border, a shirk in my own realm. So I'm creating my own realm, which is not in reality there, but means a lot, because this is kind of an associating partner to God's dominion. That's what I took out of it. You know, what is that? Let me repeat the exact phrase. From the world, he gave a particular world to each person. This world he colors for them in accordance with their sincere beliefs. So, in reality, everything is wisdomful, beautiful, artful, perfect, but there is also a realm from my own perception, and I'm putting, you know, them in the shape that I perceive them. It's not like just playing the game of optimism, but it's denying their real state, I guess, right? Their real condition.
Yeah, and like, yeah, and I guess what you're saying is almost like the, you know, neglecting worship or not worshiping ends up not being a personal issue or a personal sin. It affects, it has repercussions beyond it. By insulting the universe. It is like, imagine a tree which is supposed to produce only one fruit, and then you take and destroy that fruit. It is not only a fruit that you destroy, but all that tree working towards something um, is gone for nothing. So the whole universe is there for human being to represent its worship through their own worship. And if we miss that, if we neglect that, that means we are taking that fruit and destroying it. We are not really using it, because the whole universe for us is trying to teach us the names of the creator, for us to see Isma al-Husna, understand, reflect upon them, right? A reflective human here, right? Given to solemn worship. So if we neglect that, then we are actually violating the rights of the universe, which is trying hard for us to get to that point. And we pretty much insult them because we assume them being valueless, purposeless things. And in that sense, it is not really a personal sin anymore. It is basically a violation of the rights of all the creation. And it's not even between just you and your creator, because the whole creation is there to support your worship. And since you neglect that, then they could very well complain about you, um, you know, for for your lack of care in that sense.
Arnabi, you want to add anything in that point, in that aspect?
That's okay. Beautifully said, and I don't have anything to add on this point.
Thank you. I guess we are also out of time. Any questions that I missed? Sometimes I may miss that. I checked the chat. We have no questions now. And any, to wrap up, any reflections, any additions that you want to say about this particular aspect of worship?
Yeah, it seems like we should be in a state of worshiping anytime, any second. And the certain prayers ascribed to us in a way is to guarantee to be able to make this possible throughout our lives. But since we didn't have time, right, the coming slides, I guess I saw the worship or our daily prayers should be reflected by our being conscious of what we are doing, and we should be reacting in a way like Shuaib alayhi salam. Whenever our ascribe prayers, it should transform our day in a very good sense, so that we can construct a relationship with all creation.
And from my end, I guess sincerity, you know, we couldn't get to this slide either, I guess, but it is, you know, maybe in the following weeks, brothers can discuss. But yeah, I mean, in the sense that there are all these benefits of worship, all these wisdoms behind worship, but you know, we don't have, when we are performing worship, the reason that we are performing worship should be that because it is commanded. Again, that's the definition of ikhlas, sincerity. Again, and if we don't feel as if we are not really appreciating the full state of reflectiveness, we shouldn't despair. Because again, like, you know, and as an example that is given in Risale, right? A tree has degrees from a seed to a full-grown tree, and in that sense, but a summary of that tree is within that seed. So as long as, inshallah, our worships are sincere, it should have all these meanings of reflection on the universe. And as we keep doing them and as we reflecting more, inshallah, they would open up to produce that fully grown tree, inshallah.
Thank you so much. Harun abi, you want to close by a prayer, inshallah.
Subhaneke la ilme lena illa ma allamtena inneke entel alimul hakim. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you all for joining us. Hopefully see you next week. Stay
Thank you.
safe and healthy. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Alaikum assalam.